Childbirth, whether planned or unplanned, is almost all the time met with joy. But amazingly, post-birth is sometimes met with some emotional state, such as feeling sad and hopeless. Others may have to shed tears and get angry as often as possible. As temporary as it may be, it could lead to a permanent depression state. Women suffering from postnatal depression may not necessarily go through the same experience and feeling. Abna seems to have experienced postpartum depression. She took us through how hers felt like. So Abna, at what point did you realize you were going through postpartum depression?
It was when I got home from the hospital. That was about 3 days after birth.
So was it a medical or a doctor's diagnosis, or how exactly did you know that you were going through postpartum depression?
Okay. Whilst I was pregnant, I used to read a lot about pregnancy and after pregnancy. So once I started feeling that way, I considered it as a possibility. So I spoke to a friend of mine who is a counselor, who asked me if I wanted to talk to a doctor because he thought the doctor would be in a better position to confirm if that was exactly what I was going through.
So did you then finally get to speak to a doctor for any confirmation of the sort?
No, I didn't, because I didn't think that what I was going through was so extreme that I had to bring in a doctor. I just thought, oh, it's something, maybe some blues I'm going through that would fade off eventually.
So now Abna, vividly take us through what you do or go through that actually confirms an exhibition of postpartum depression.
Okay, just a few things, but what would normally happen to me, I used to cry a lot. Okay, for no apparent reason, I'll cry. When my baby's crying, I'll cry. When I'm alone, I feel so down, so lonely, even though I have people around me. For example, if probably my husband said, oh, he was going out to get something, I'll just cry, which I thought was very silly, but well, I couldn't blame myself because it wasn't intentional. I guess it's because of what I was going through.
Okay, so how have you managed it till now?
Well, it wasn't so difficult for me to manage. I used to talk to friends a lot. So what I'll do is that most of the time when I'm free, like when I'm not with the baby, I'll just call up some friends, chat with them, just make myself happier, because I realized that once I got to talk to people, I got my mind off everything and then I felt a lot better. So, I mean, like I said, I think it just faded off because now I'm feeling normal. I don't cry anymore. I'm enjoying my baby and everything. So.
Well, thank you very much, Shabna. So this is a situation, postpartum depression is a situation that actually happens to women after delivery. After giving birth, there's only joy that one expects. But hey, after delivery, if you realize that your sexual urge has drastically gone low, situations such as after delivery, you realize that you easily get angry, your eating pattern has actually changed, you easily get saddened by little things that are unnecessary. The moment that you realize that certain attitudes and behaviors have changed in your life after delivery, the best bet is to quickly visit your nearest clinic or hospital and talk to a doctor about it, because if you don't, it could worsen, and we don't want to hear that bad story from you.
Okay, so joining me in the studio once again, he was here with us earlier on in the week. We have Dr. Jacob Amwochu, and I've got it right this time?
Yes.
Great, wonderful. He's a gynecologist and head of department at Baltimore Catholic Hospital. So good morning to you, Doc.
Good morning.
Thank you for coming in again. What is postpartum depression? Because first off, some women may already know, they may have experienced it, they may have had a relative or a mother or a sister who's been through it. Probably more rare to hear of men knowing what it's about, unless they have a spouse or a mother or something of the sort as well. So if you could kindly give us an explanation of what it is, and then we can take it from there.
Yeah, postpartum depression is a depressive illness that starts after giving birth. Yes, so the woman might not have been depressive, but then after delivery, then the mood changes, or the signs and symptoms that diagnose depression comes in, and that is when you make the diagnosis that the woman has postpartum depression.
What leads to the depression?
In fact, the cause are very unclear, but then there are predisposing factors, or what we call risk factors.
Okay, such as?
The risk factors include post-birth psychological trauma.
Okay.
Yeah, so for instance, if the woman delivered and then during the delivery process there was some traumatic experience, it could lead to postpartum depression afterwards. And then single parenting, yes, and then low socioeconomical state can also lead to postpartum depression.
Okay.
Yes.
How do the symptoms manifest within someone?
Well, it's usually due to mood changes. So things that usually will interest you before you got pregnant now will not interest you again.
For instance, your husband.
Yes. Anything that someone says angers you.
Right.
Yes. And then you may not pay attention to the newborn baby.
Right.
And then your libido may drastically reduce, and everything around you just seems not moving on well. Yes. And then we have a scale we use to make the diagnosis. So when you approach your health care provider, there is a set of questions that will be asked, and then out of that we'll make the diagnosis.
Okay. I mean, you said there's no particular cause for it, except for some sort of trauma that the person may have gone through. Is all of this understood when, for instance, somebody like yourself is given treatment?
Well, the treatment is usually supportive.
Okay.
So yes, so when the diagnosis is made, then counseling and then supportive advice are given, so that the woman will come out of the depressive symptoms. Yes.
Okay. Now, I want to bring this to Ghana, our environment, our culture. Obviously, some mothers who have just given birth, if they're going through this and a family member or family members have given birth multiple times without going through it, obviously this particular new mother may be stigmatized, maybe even further traumatized by words or insults from family members or loved ones. How often are you finding that women are actually reporting this form of depression here in Ghana?
Well, the depression can actually occur right from birth to about a year post-delivery. So if it occurs immediately post-delivery and the woman is in hospital, then it's easy to diagnose.
Right.
Yeah. But when they go home and it's not that severe, they may not even complain to anyone.
Right. So they may suffer in silence.
Yes. And then the people around them may not probably think that they have a depressive illness, so they may not be too much bothered about it. Yes. But when it happens within the hospital setting, then because the professionals are there, it's easier to pick it up. Yes.
Okay. Do you have any statistics at all? I mean, in regards to what percentage of women suffer postpartum depression here in Ghana?
Yes. The ones that have chanced on actually were not done in Ghana, but then there's been a number of studies, and then the percentages ranges between 5 to 25%
of women.
Yes.
Go through postpartum depression. So it's actually quite common then.
Yes, it's common, but in our environment, because the supportive group is not that there, it's not so easy to make the diagnosis as in doing it outside.
Okay. And you said it can last for a year. So let's just say, for instance, that a mother has a child. She's gone through postpartum depression. She's managed to beat it. She's great. She has another child. Doesn't mean automatically she will have postpartum depression again and go through the same thing? Or could it be that this time she might pass through it normally?
Yes, it may or may not occur in the next pregnancy. but then she can have it again, because one of the risk factor is also a previous postpartum depression.
Right.
Yes. So it may not follow that the next pregnancy you have it, but within your lifetime, as you get pregnant and deliver, you can have it again.
All right. Now, I mean, since it is a form of depression, what could potentially be the outcome if this form of depression is not addressed properly?
It is usually a milder form of depressive illness. Not too many women will go and commit suicide because of this. Yes. So usually with support groups, it fades away, and it's not too much of a problem. Yes. In terms of committing suicides and all that, the only thing is that it may create a barrier between a bonding of the child and then the mother, because
right, okay.
Some may even refuse to breastfeed.
Right.
And in actual fact, formula feeding is also a risk factor.
Okay.
Yes, because if you give breast milk, it improves bonding between you and then the baby.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
And then if you decide to give formula feeds, then
that connection.
Yeah, that connection tends to be lost in some way.
Okay. So what is the likelihood, or what are the factors besides having postpartum depression before that may lead to you having it again if you have another child?
If you have had a depressive illness before,
any kind of depressive illness.
Yes.
Okay. So
then
if you have literally behavioral issues, mental issues, psychological issues, anything before that could also make you prone to.
Yes.
Okay. Any other factors?
And then broken homes. Yes,
Right.
broken marriages, and then when the husband is not supporting you, it can also predispose you.
Okay.
And I must add that men can also have postpartum depression.
Now this is actually very interesting to me.
Yes.
Please explain a little further.
Yes, you see, the depression associated with childbirth is not just limited to the amount of hormones or the hormonal changes that occur in the woman.
Okay.
Yes, it is a psychological problem, and it usually comes because the baby is born into the family. So the man can also have.
Okay, but let's just say, I mean, for instance, if you're not recording a lot of reports of this particular form of depression in women, then the records of men must be even lower then.
Well, it is not that we are not recording, it's just that they are not coming to the hospital.
Right.
The prevalence rate has not changed.
Okay.
Just that we are not picking them in the society. Yeah, so probably a husband may just be angry with a little thing somebody does because there's a newborn child in the home.
But wouldn't we just call that stress?
Well, stress can also predispose you to having the depression. Yes, a lot of stress.
Okay.
Yes, so we may, or in the layman's term, we may term it as stress, but then in actual fact, you are going through depression.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. Now, can all of this be totally cured?
Oh yes, it's with social support groups and then counseling. It goes away.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about the social support groups. I mean, what would happen in an environment such as that?
Yes. Family and then friends will come around and then have chats with you, encourage you that this is not the end of the world, and then having a child is a good thing and not rather a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, so with that you grow out of the depressive state.
Okay. And Doc, what would you advise people who are going through forms of depression at the moment? If they're at home, they're watching, they may have been able to identify some of the symptoms that you said. What would you advise them?
Yes, they should see their healthcare provider, because childbearing is a joyful moment. So anytime you feel like you are not happy, you are sad, you are irritable, you feel that everything around you is collapsing, anhedonia, anything that was previously interesting to you, now you don't feel having any interest in them, then please see your healthcare provider and the necessary assistance will be given to you.
Okay. I want to thank you for coming in this morning once again, Doc, and enlightening us on postpartum depression. This has been Dr. Jacob Amwachup. He is the gynecologist and head of department at the Baltor Catholic Hospital. And like he's also said, I mean, postpartum depression doesn't happen to everyone and not anyone. So at the end of the day, still follow God's rules. Go forth and multiply.